Hi, hello, welcome. Hello, everybody. How you doing? Happy New Year. 2020 is gone. We have survived the double critical hit. And let's see what 2021 brings, or maybe I should say what we bring to 2021. So um, I feel like I could go through a bazillion different updates, but that might be kind of a boring way to start the stream. So I won't do much updates. I just want to show one. So last Bardstream, you all helped me concept a new monster, which is the Nycta Sphinx, which merges Sphinx and owl traits together, and it's a creature that I fell in love with it pretty much at first glance. I immediately started loving it, just right then and there in the live stream as we were creating it. So it's coming along. I'm still working on the stats and the lore. That's coming along. The artwork is done though, and it looks really cool. So I want to show it off. There it is. This is the Nycta Sphinx, done by the fantastic artist Ashkan Ganbari, who is doing a number of pieces for my upcoming book, Esper's Emporium of Esoterica. I do have a link for the pre-order of the book down in the video description. The book is still being developed. It's going to take a few months still for it to be ready, but it's coming along. Every day comes closer. So I really, really like how this turned out. He's got the moon iconography on his helmet and the moon in the sky. He is in a treetop temple sanctuary place. He's got the opalescent eyes. They actually look like opal gems. Captured a bit of a classic Sphinx look with the beard and the hair. Oops, there we go. And Ashkan is really, really good at lighting effects. So he's done a wonderful job with the lighting. He's also good at doing unique anatomies and interesting poses. So I'm so pleased with this creature. Merges one of my favorite animals, the owl, with one of my all-time favorite monsters, the Sphinx. So I just want to give another thank you to everybody who helped me with building the monster last Bard stream. And now this Bard stream, we're going to be making some spells. Looks like I'm getting some comments here. Yes. Thank you, everybody. I think it looked really well. I've been enjoying my role as the art director for the book. It's come really naturally to me. I'm an artist, So the only thing that I didn't quite anticipate is exactly how much time and work that all takes. But whatever. The book will get finished. It will happen. I'm not going to rush it, but I do want to stay. I want to stay on the ball, but I'm not going to rush anything. So we're going to get into making some spells. But before we do, actually, I have a guest. His name is Dakota Miller. I'm going to bring him on now. Hey, welcome.
What's up, man?
How you doing?
Doing awesome, man. And
Has
hey, I want to say
in the last 5 minutes since we just chatted.
I know. And hey, I want to say for anybody listening that I listened to The Tower, one of your short stories, and it was fantastic. I do got to say that I've listened to a couple of your short stories, and they are fantastic. For anybody listening, you should check them out.
Thank you. Oh, I really appreciate that. I still write short stories, and I've got these novels that I've been working on. I have not yet achieved the publishing accolades, or I haven't gotten actual publishing deal yet, but I'm trying and I'm working. And this RPG book that I'm doing now, that'll be my own self-published thing. So maybe that will add an extra credential onto my my query letter. I'm just really hoping that it's going to serve as like a stepping stone in this process. And then the day will come that you can read like full length stuff that's in the same vein as The Tower and some of my other stories.
That's right.
Which, by the way, that story and those other ones on my channel, like I'm better than that. Those actually are kind of older things.
Right.
I don't want to just dismiss them, but I've improved a lot since then. So
Yeah.
It makes me happy that you like it, and it makes me really wish that that I could show the world like the current state of things. But anyways, enough about all that. You had this question or this kind of topic that had been on your mind. and I read your basic synopsis of it in the email, like back when you first sent that to me, and then I literally have not thought about it at all since then. Which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but let's see what I come up with off the top of my head. It was about fantasy and sci-fi genres.
Yeah. Yeah, I was wondering if you'd ever played like a Spelljammer type campaign, or with Pathfinder, I think they have Starfinder. So I was wondering at first to just ask you if you'd ever played one of those campaigns, and if you haven't, just what kind of stands out to you as like the comparison between like a Spelljammer, any kind of sci-fi like planetary type campaign versus a Planescape campaign, because it's like you kind of have like physical outer planes that have like physical geography, but then it's also like, you know, you've got to come up with all new rules, right?
Yeah,
For how that works. So I was wondering, as a storyteller, what do you think about that?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question, and there's a lot that I could talk about with that. So, the first thing that I think of when this topic comes up is kind of a general question of genre, right? Fantasy, like a medieval fantasy or ancient world fantasy, sci-fi, which we think of high technology and other worlds, modern day, which obviously would be modern, Western, and others, right? There's a number of different others. Okay, so what are those genres exactly? I mean, are they in the fantasy? It's swords and armor and um, Iron Age tech and wizards and dragons, and then sci-fi it's lasers and spaceships and aliens, and westerns it's cowboy hats and six shooters, and modern it's urban struggles and urban decay. Uh, or is that just kind of surface level stuff, right? Is that just cosmetic? Because, like, think of a great story that you really like that's a fantasy story, whatever you want to think of, Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones, or even something more obscure. Could you tell that same story in sci-fi? Could you tell Star Wars in like an ancient Greek setting, like a Greek mythology setting?
I want to ask you, have you ever seen this movie Cowboys and Aliens? I think it was called
I've
Cowboys
heard
and
of,
Aliens.
I've heard of Cowboys and Aliens, but I haven't actually watched it.
It is a really interesting thing. It's been years since I watched it, but they did that. They did that. Well, it was like a Western sci-fi crossover. So I want to say that aliens came and they abducted people from this Midwestern town, and they actually chased the UFO on horseback as it was taking off. And I think that they gained access to it that way. They just barely caught up to it.
It has Daniel Craig and Harrison Ford in it.
Yeah.
And it's from the director of Iron Man. I have a student. That's my other job that I do, is I teach English to Brazilians. So I have a student who's involved with the film industry, mainly distribution, but she used to be involved with some of the production stuff. And she was recommending this movie to me. And I won't lie, when I first heard the title Cowboys and Aliens, I was kind of,
right.
It sounds a little cheesy, but sometimes things that are campy are good due to their campiness.
It's big enough to have Harrison Ford on it, right? Somebody came up with a good enough script to entice him on. So,
from Blade Runner to Cowboys and Aliens. You know what this makes me somewhat think of, both the Cowboys and Aliens movie and this topic that you brought up, is Deadlands, the RPG Deadlands, the tabletop. Have you ever played Deadlands?
No, I haven't.
So it's in the Savage Worlds game system, and like Savage Worlds is like the core rules that is flexible for any kind of genre, and then they have like expansions or campaign settings. So Deadlands is one that blends the West, the Wild West, with like sci-fi and weird tales. It's like a weird fiction, sci-fi, Wild West, alternate history, all that together.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, there's even an interesting map of the U.S. in it.
Oh, it's set in the U.S.
So it's sort of an alternate history. So
Yeah.
in
Oh,
this
you've already
setting,
sold me. You've already sold me. You said
okay,
alternate history. You sold me.
it is it's totally worth checking out.
Yeah.
In this setting, the Civil War is still going on. It's lasted for many years and has not come to a resolution yet. And the East Coast isn't even on the map. It's just, if you ever talk about the East Coast, you just refer to back east, but everything
Yeah.
takes place literally in the West. And like there are supernatural things and weird technologies. Um, I'm not going to say steampunk because it's not really steampunk, but there is a bit of
Okay.
kind of steam tech in there. But there's also like this stuff called ghost rock, which is a rock, that a mineral that has magical latent supernatural properties to it. And so some of the mad scientist people are using it for strange inventions, but also there's magic too. And the Native Americans have their kind of shamanic, druidic type magic too. It's a it's a really cool setting, and
Yeah.
it blends genres and stuff.
Yeah, I've
So
thought about kind of branching off too, because it's like I've played one campaign, I couldn't find a DM, so I just said, well, by default, I am the DM, right? I mean, I enjoy that leadership type role. So I really enjoy that. But I've thought about for the next campaign trying a new system, so that might be something that I go with.
it's worth checking out.
Yeah,
I do like the Dungeons and Dragons system better. It's overall just a better, more robust, and more well play tested system.
right.
In Savage Worlds, you'll run into some things that are like, whoa, okay, that's kind of janky or unbalanced, but whatever. That can actually add to the fun sometimes.
That's right.
Um, so yeah, so genre, man, like what I really think of first is the actual story itself. I really think of the story and the
Yeah,
characters,
yeah, because it
you know,
interests me.
the heart and soul that's in it, and then what genre, kind of like a tool. Each genre is kind of like a toolbox or a theater stage. Which one will help me best tell the story or develop the story? And sometimes it could work for any genre, really.
Yeah.
So I know I'm not exactly answering your question yet, but I'm kind of getting there.
Well,
Um,
you said something that interests me. You talked about I believe you said you mentioned Star Wars, and it's interesting because you're basically telling in Star Wars you're basically telling the story of how dictator type characters such as Julius Caesar, such as Sulla, and Augustus Caesar transformed the Roman Republic
mhm.
into this empire type system where you just removed the community based aspect of the government and transformed it into rule by force.
Yeah,
So, so you can, in some aspects, it's like you can tell the exact same story. And it's like, what would be the Death Star if you transformed it to like a history based setting? I don't know if you could have an equivalent to the Death Star, but in
like
a
a
fan,
Colossus,
what, like what?
like a Colossus.
Colossus? Yeah. Yeah, like in a fantasy-based
Imagine like
setting,
a
you could
big,
think of any number of things.
yeah, imagine a
Yeah.
giant Cyclops Colossus, and its Cyclops eye has this, it can like burn whole cities to the ground.
Yeah. Yeah, so that would be a really awesome way to tell that story, even in just like a sword and sorcery um
Someone did
aspect.
a Star Wars rendition as a Japanese, like a feudal Japan version. And that worked really well too, because there's also samurai type stuff, influences
Yeah.
in Star Wars.
Do you have any idea of the details of that? Who did that? What was the
I don't know. I don't. All I know is some people in my local D&D group. Was it my local? Oh my god, my meme channels are blurring together now. Someone somewhere was showing images from it, so I don't
Yeah.
know if it was just art pieces or if it was actually like a rendition. I know someone also did a Shakespearean Star Wars.
Okay.
That I've seen at the bookstore.
Yeah.
So, okay, so let me try to get a little bit more back to your question, because I wanted to get that out there first, that whether you're playing in this setting or the other, I try to first keep in mind what is really most important, which is the story and the characters and getting the like genuine human emotion into it. Because without that, it is just going to be superficial uh, cosmetic skins, or it's just skins really is all that you're swapping out between the genres.
That's right.
Okay, so I have much more experience playing D&D, but I have played some sci-fi stuff. I've played the Deadlands thing that I mentioned. I've played way back. It was a Star Wars. What the heck? Star Wars. I can't remember which. It's Saga Edition, like the one that came out right before Fourth Edition D&D.
Yeah.
I played a little bit of the prior Star Wars edition, which was it used the essentially the core rules of the third edition D&D. And I haven't played Starfinder. I've looked through some of the books, but I haven't actually played it.
Yeah. Me too. It seems really crunchy. I've looked through them too. I like the star system. The starship combat, but I'm not crazy about the rest of just how crunchy it is. Because I kind of like to make up stuff on the fly. I'm that kind of DM. I just like to just throw things out there sometimes.
Yeah, and I think Pathfinder leans more in that direction of being more complex rules, layered rules. I mean, original Pathfinder's third edition D&D, and that's a very, very rules heavy, complex system. So my first, I was saying in quotes my first, because it's kind of hard to say my first, which it's hard for me to know exactly which one to consider my first campaign ever. But like I made this sci-fi RPG in the 8th grade. So when I was like 14, 15, called Weapon Cyborg. And it was a combination of my influences of Star Wars, original Star Wars trilogy, plus some Marvel comic stuff, plus a little bit of, oh my gosh, there was something else in there. It was Star Wars, Marvel comics, and there's something else I'm forgetting. But Star Wars definitely was the biggest influence on it. And so I played that before I ever properly played Dungeons and Dragons.
Really?
I had a lot of fun with that. It was also very rules light.
Yeah, it sounds like a ton of fun.
It was a lot of fun. It basically, the idea was you would create a character and decide your level of how synthetic you were. So I think there were 5 levels. There was like purely organic, no modification. And then there was like some implants. So like that'd be like, say, stage 1 or category 1 is pure organic. Category 2 was like some implants, right? You had some kind of something that augmented you or enhanced you in some way. And then stage 3 or category 3 was like maybe we'd call it like, that was the cyborg actually, yeah, where it was part organic, part mechanical. So it was sort of a half and half thing. And then, okay, I guess there was 4. And then the 4th category was you're purely droid, right? You're a robot. So you had to make a decision about that. And there were, again, this is 8th grade. So it didn't go super deep, but there's like little, like little inklings of something that could go deeper, right? Just, we weren't mature enough yet to actually take the thoughts to a deep level, but it was, the hint of it is there. Like, decide,
well, what would you say?
Humanity am I willing to sacrifice for mechanical power?
What would you say would be your most memorable moment from that from that game system? Is to be young again, right?
Yeah, come to my mind.
Yeah.
One actually is a comedy scene where one of the characters misunderstood. They were speaking to an alien race and they were trying to do a deal. They were trying to barter. I don't know. They were buying some blaster or something or a ship. Yeah, they were trying to buy a new ship, and they misunderstood what this alien race was saying in their alien language, and like how can I explain it? So imagine that instead of hearing, Starship A class, you actually just heard the phonetic sounds of what the person says in their language, and they thought that that's what they were supposed to say, and gosh, I guess it's one of those you had to be there moments.
Yeah.
But it went on to like be this running joke throughout the campaign that anytime the characters either didn't understand what was happening or it was like a situation where everything was just going chaos and it's like, well, shit, and you have that catchphrase. They always said that freaking whatever it was a kind of a gibberish thing, like
Yeah.
nifty blibs or something. It was something like that. I remember. And like nifty blibs meant like, starship category, blah blah blah. But they
Yeah.
they didn't get that. They literally thought the guy was saying that this is called a nifty blibs. And
Yeah.
so it's kind of the Knights Who Say knee, right? It was
Yeah.
so dumb and nonsense, but it stuck and it went on to be this running joke. And so like every time there was a ridiculous situation or the shit was hitting the fan, it was just like nifty blips. It's eighth grade, man. It's eighth grade. Come on.
That's what we play for, right?
And then the other memorable moment I have is actually character creation. The adventures are kind of foggy and hazy. I remember bits and pieces of, they go to this one planet that's a really high tech place, and they're like having to break into the enemy base and deal with computers and machines and stuff. And then they went to this other planet that's like totally low tech, almost like kind of like how Jabba's palace in a way is low tech. I mean, there's high tech stuff in there, but it's not, there's not, it could be a Conan dungeon, right?
Yeah.
It's just like one step removed from swords and sorcery. So they went to this like, or Dagobah is even a better example. They went to this really savage, primeval world and we're fighting big slug things coming out of the swamp or something. But no, it's the character creation. Actually, I have this very, very fond memory of my friends looking at these character options that I'd made. And I did these illustrations with pen and ink, which I'd gotten really inspired by comic book art. And I just remember them like getting really fascinated with the idea of, which character they could play and what these different abilities could be. And it's a simple moment. It's a simple memory, but there was something to it that was like the feeling of having created something and then other people are feeling inspired and engrossed by it. And it was a really amazing moment. I've never felt that before. Like
Yeah.
I felt like, oh my God, I've created a world and people are getting into it.
And it's kind of driven you forward, huh? I love it.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It has. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I have some experience here and there with some sci-fi stuff.
Yeah. So
But I
you
have a
never
lot
played
more experience.
Spelljammer or any of the
Okay.
Crystal Spheres type stuff?
I've never played Spelljammer as is,
Right.
but I've used Spelljammer and Planescape books and used that content in my campaigns before, particularly in a couple of my 4th edition campaigns and a little bit in 5th edition too. So, like, part of it's preference. I get a little picky or a lot picky with the aesthetic of things. So, it's like, okay, we can have these astral skiffs and they have some kind of magic tech and you can use it to sail the astral sea and planes beyond and to wherever you want to go. and maybe there are these arcane ballistas or some kind of energy cannons on it, and it's enough to where I think it can fit within my preference of the style, or yeah, the style of fantasy.
Yeah. So
But
you have them sail kind of the astral sea, right?
yeah,
Okay.
especially in my big epic 4th edition campaign. That one had a lot of, like, I've got so I can grab it real quick here. Yeah, I got like the 4th edition manual of planes right here. And I remember going through this quite a
Yeah.
bit, and using content out of this.
Yeah. See, the astral sea
Um,
draws me for that particular reason. The particular reason that it's got these guys in it.
the Dreadnought. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this
That's
this
actually
is probably
the
one of my
artwork from
favorite
the book, isn't
monsters.
it?
It's yeah, I think it is the 4th edition Astral Dreadnought. I've got
Yeah.
these are, I make miniatures from like popsicle sticks and cardstock,
Cool.
and because I don't have any money, I told you I was a college student.
Yeah.
But
Cool
yeah,
thing
I
about
mean, the
one
Astral
of the cool
Dreadnought
things
just
about
seems like a terrifying monster to face.
yeah.
Yep, that's the one.
Awesome.
That's the one.
So that side of it, I can get into, and I can get into the Githyanki and Githzerai and their tech and their ships, and
Right.
there's a pretty strong dose of fantasy sci-fi in there. But then, like, it does start treading into stuff that I'm not quite so hot about, like the GIF or the GIF race, and some of the
Yeah, the
gamma world.
hippopotami, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we got lizard folk and Quotoa and Swagans and
Right.
the hippo folk.
They're
So
just more
inevitably,
bestial. They're more bestial than anything.
yeah, I've tried to put my finger on what exactly that is. Why some beast folk seem more cheesy than others.
Yeah.
But inevitably, it gets to some specific areas that just kind of, it's a little too much for me. It gets a little too cartoony.
Right.
I use Sigil a lot in that 4th edition campaign, and Sigil, I think, is a really cool mini plane kind of setting unto itself. So I like it. I think there's a lot of potential for it. You brought up another good point when it comes to this interplanar journeys and adventures, which is, it's more complicated to DM it.
Right.
Yeah, it is.
I see that. Now that we're sitting here talking about it, I see it. Yeah.
It is. It doesn't. I mean, I guess it doesn't really have to be incredibly more complicated than, like, a high level party that just teleports around the material plane and goes to different cities.
Right.
But it's like there are these extra levels to it that, the DM may perceive that it's a lot more complicated. My best advice actually is to go back to that first thing that I talked about, which is focus first on the story and the characters / NPCs, and like the heart and soul. And what I mean by that is, like, the reason why you're doing something. Why are you doing something? Why does it matter? Why do they care? Why is it valuable? Why is it important? What does this mean to the characters? What kind of action do you think they might need to employ in order to pursue said goal? If you focus on those things first, it helps a lot with that levels of complexity.
Okay.
And think of it like this: all these mechanics and settings and monsters, all the options, right? All the options are tools. So there's a big toolbox, and it can get overwhelming if you focus on the toolbox and you're like, oh my God, there was already all these tools, but now I got to do extra planner stuff. And it's like, you've just given me 3 more toolboxes. I got to learn all these tools. What the hell is that? I don't even have the right appendage to hold that tool. So that can be overwhelming. But if you focus first on the why and the motivation and the story and the characters, then you realize that that's your focus. That's the thing that you're, like, locked onto and developing. and then you just grab tools as you need, and the mechanics and the settings support you, right? You just end up using them in a practical sense to help you illustrate the adventure and bring the adventure to life. So I would recommend don't focus first on learning all the lore and all the mechanics and all the rules and all the layers of complexity. Focus first on what it is. It's like this character follows such and such god. He follows a god, a god of light, right? One of the good aligned gods, a celestial in the pure sense of the word. Okay, but they need to recover a legendary weapon this god forged long ago, and it was sealed away in this misbegotten, far-flung plane. Maybe it was in a war-torn corner of the cosmos, and eventually the gods and the angels won the battle against the aberrations or the fiends or the extraplanar threat, but at a great cost. And the legendary hammer of Morden was sealed away in there, and the players, that weapon's important to this player because if he recovers that, then he has a chance of defeating the demon lord that threatens to topple all the temples of his god of light in the world. And so you have to find these right arcane sigil, teleportation sigil sequences to be able to teleport your party to this blasted ruin of a far-flung vault and in the most distant reaches of the astral sea. And you have to go through that dungeon full of extraplanar entities and bizarre magical traps, and it's in some way it's tied to the character and to the plot of the campaign. And then you're like, okay, well, what kind of monster might they encounter as they travel from point A to point B? So then you look up that book. Okay, well, what are the properties of this environment? Do they just appear on a floating giant rock, like a floating island, and gravity works like normal? Or do they get some kind of innate flying speed? Is there air they can breathe or not? So you start looking up little bits and pieces that support your story, which essentially boils down to the character or the characters not letting their deity down and having a fighting chance, gaining some kind of weapon to have a fighting chance against an archvillain. So that's kind of off the top of my head. You could go into obviously many different directions with that.
Oh yeah.
So there is a little bit of quasi sci-fi stuff in the book that I'm working on now. One is actually a character who the concept comes from one of the backers. And when I first got the concept, I wasn't quite sure how to proceed with it because it was pretty sci-fi. And like the character has the concept says, she's collected alien weapons, and I don't remember if it said blasters or lasers or like high-tech weapons or not, but it was that was kind of the impression that I got. And I let it kind of settle. I didn't jump the gun. No pun intended. I didn't jump the gun, and I was like, okay, well, how can I make this fit? Because there's alien stuff in like Conan the Barbarian, and that's like a early Iron Age, Dark Age, Forgotten Age setting.
Right.
Kind of some alien stuff in other fantasy movies, and it doesn't have to be literally like a gun out of Mass Effect.
Yeah.
And it's like pew 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 pew. It doesn't have to literally be that, right?
Yeah.
It could be something that's like almost a weapon you would see in D&D, but stylized in a very different alien type way. Aberrations are aliens.
Yeah.
They're
And
just
I always think of Dune too, where it's like at the very start of the series, it's like guns are useless because of their shield technology that would cause an atomic explosion if you shot them with it. So it's like I've seen also other fantasy stories that do that, where you've got swords and shields, even though there's technology. But another thing is you can always have this part of sort of forgotten alien technology. I mean, think of the show Ancient Aliens, right?
sure.
I mean, where they've come and they've done their thing and they've gone, they got what they wanted from us, but they left traces of their technology too. There's a really interesting, if you're on Facebook, I'm sure you've seen it, called it's an RPG called Anchor, so Kingdom of the Gods. And I'm sure if you've been on Facebook,
Ankor.
Ankur, and it's by a new guy. He's selling it on Drive Through RPG. It's I first caught my eye because he put out a supplement for it that includes like an Africa type setting, and that's really what I've been looking for, because I've got an Earth type, like I'm basing my world off of actual Earth and its geography. So it was really interesting to me to see the elephant. Click on the elephant. People have to see that elephant. It's like an elephant sea serpent. I mean, look at that. It's called a Groot slang. It's an elephant sea serpent out of a river, out of the Congo River or something, and they're firing a laser beam at it. I mean, check that out. So anyway, I've been really interested. I haven't had the money to buy it yet, but I'd really like to check it out. It's a whole new RPG system, and it uses a D12 system. So I'm really interested. It's got more of a modular character development, like instead like D&D kind of, once you pick your subclass, it kind of like it kind of
locked in.
Yeah, so this one has more of a skills-based system, it looks like. So I'm interested to try it, but it's based off of this idea that, it's like right after the Great Flood, like, that's mentioned in all major mythologies. But it's aliens have arrived to mine gold Earth for its resources. And there's all kind of supernatural elements, but there's also sci-fi elements, and it's basically based off of Sumerian mythology. So it's interesting to check out.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, I almost said Egyptian, and then I looked a little closer, and I'm like, that's a little different.
Yeah.
So yeah, Sumerian.
Yeah.
Wow, man.
It's interesting because there's a lot of non-combat classes too. So I'm interested to check it out. It's like it's sci-fi, but it's also not,
Non-combat classes. That's sort of what got me on my train of thought that led me to my Paragon class that's in my upcoming book. Even though it evolved out of that, the whole begin was like, how do you play like a merchant or a diplomat or a ruler type who's not a warrior or a wizard?
Right.
Eventually in the end I was like, well, this is D&D, so it has to be good at combat.
Right.
But it got the ball rolling for me, at least. Man, I should probably wrap things up there, because I told everyone that
That's right.
we're going to get on to making spells, and here
That's
we are,
right.
40 minutes in.
I know.
This is a great topic, though. If you get into that Anchor game, drop me a line and let me know what you think of it.
I absolutely will, because I'm going to buy the hardcover of the rules when I finally get a paycheck. been the whole past year without a paycheck. So as soon as I get that paycheck, I will let you know. I will check it out and let you know.
Do you have a concept for a spell?
Man,
right off your head?
To tell you the truth, I'm so new to the game that if I come up with a concept, it's probably already been done. So I'll pass on that one.
The rest of the stream to think about it. If you have any ideas, just drop a comment.
Okay,
cool.
brother.
Thank you so much, Dakota, for coming on and for the interesting topic. It was It was a pleasure chatting with you.
You too, Isper. Been a fan for a long time. It's been a great honor, man, and a lot of fun, man. Thank you for having me on.
Hey, thanks a lot. I appreciate that. Well, I'll talk to you a little bit later, and let's get on to doing some spells.
All right.
Everybody, I am now going to put it to you all. What spell idea is simmering in your cauldrons, brewing in the forlorn corners of your imaginations? I'd like to create at least one spell, maybe a few, if we can do a few, at least get the main concepts down. And I'd like to put them in the book, right? I'd like to put them in the Emporium. So let's start concepting here. I'm going to scroll back through the comments and see if anyone has already put any ideas for a spell concept already. It could be the effects of what the spell does. It could be the general idea. It could be just the name. Anything, any way that you can throw out an idea or a concept, I will take it into consideration. Create crawling claw. Create crawling claw. I actually already have a spell in the book called Optivoa, and it's a pretty grisly spell where you actually, in order to, it's a ritual spell. In order to perform it, you have to remove your eye, and then the eye gets animated in its own way, and you can send the eye out and see through it. You can get it to come back into your socket too. It's sort of like a familiar in a way, but it's more advanced than a familiar, and it's a little creepier than a familiar. And it's not exactly the same thing, but it's roughly similar in general terms. And it is a necromancy spell, so I don't know if a crawling claw is going to quite find its place in. Okay, let me keep scrolling through. Spell idea, a literal DNA test. Okay, let's see. Is there something that we can mine out of that idea? A DNA test. Your ancestry. Who are you? Who are you related to? Or using it on a person to see who they are related to. I mean, it must be possible. I mean, anything is possible in a world of magic. What function would that serve? Would it be to determine someone's real identity? That DNA test doesn't seem to be like identity, like in the sense of, well, I guess it could be. I'll let that one simmer. Birdie Sanders says, I also love your short stories, Esper. I miss putting the short stories on this channel so much. I really, really do. It will happen again. It shall come to pass. Oscar Hernandez says, Magic Bolt 3d8 like Magic Missile 3d4, very OP, I guess. When it comes to like direct damage attack spells, I'd like it to be something, substantially different than what we already have. Ribble Scribble is definitely onto something there. Was Ribble Scribble the DNA idea? Oh, no. I guess I overlooked it. Ribble Subscribble. One that steals opponent's spells for a finite amount of time, like Poochie's White Snake from JoJo's. I do have a spell like that already. It's called Arcane Eclepsia. So how did you know? You must be psychic. Yeah, I've already got that. Right on. Okay. Joshua Blair says, I want to see a spell of temporary lycanthropy or something. You could use it on an ally to give them buffs, or use a different mode to affect an enemy's mind as well, kind of like a Crown of Madness. Okay. That one, so far, that's the one that's catching me the most. So I've got a notes document here. I'm going to call that, here, let me just screen share so you all can see my notes. Okay. Let's call that lycanthropy, temporal lycanthropy. That'll be the working title. we'll see if that turns into something. It's a transmutation. We know that much. Transmutation. Let me see. Can I copy and paste from StreamYard your comment? Oh, well, I can do that. That's cool, but can I copy and paste it? I just want to copy and paste it. Okay. StreamYard does not let me copy paste. Maybe if I ran an instance of YouTube, I would be able to do that. Whatever. I'll just make my own note. Temp transform subject into lycanthrope potential enhancement or buff for ally or madness like effect against an enemy, right? Because that might not be a good thing for an enemy, like an enemy spellcaster suddenly werewolfs out, and that might mess up his tactics. Like effect. Okay. Let's keep scrolling through here. David Burr. Make a spell called Mantis Morphis. Turns your opponent into a Cronenberg-esque mantis man for psychic damage. Transform into a werewolf. Transform into a giant praying mantis. Let's keep going here. Riftengard says, hey Esper, I had a funny idea for you. In Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, the Warlock has a new ability for their tome, which lets them write a name into their book. Using this, they can halt a person from dropping to 0 hit points as long as they aren't killed outright. As it is written, a person can only benefit from that Warlock ability once per Warlock's long rest. What happens if you get a few Warlocks on your side to write your name into their Tome of Shadows to keep you on your feet? Well, you are going to be staying alive substantially longer. Bella Dav. I think Bella Dav is trolling. Bella Dav, you are on timeout. Bad troll. Okay. Strat player. What's up, Adam? Plenty of historical Death Stars out there, for sure. I almost said Trojan Horse, but I don't know if Trojan Horse is quite the right one. Atomic Bomb. Okay. Spell ideas, guys. Okay. David Honderman says, Ayakotek for the spell name. Ayakotek. Well, what is Ayakotek? Do I dare just live Google something? It could be anything. Ayakotek. Well, it didn't come up with anything. Did I spell it wrong? Ayakotek. No, I spelled it like you did. Did you mean? Well, that is mysterious. Intriguing. Why don't I note down Ayakotek? Sounds Aztec or Mayan. Steph, how interesting. Steph, you are here. Well, it was your character concept that I was talking about with the alien weapons and alien tech thing. I did manage to figure it out, and I got some pretty cool art for her too. And yeah, it's that's what it is. It's blending fantasy and some sci-fi touches in there without breaking too much the tone of it all. Okay, Steph Hanley. Hi, Esper. Why do dungeon masters tend to prefer exoplanetary adventures over interplanetary ones? Well, what's the difference? Okay, sure. Extraplanar, you're going to different planes of existence, as opposed to interplanetary, where it's like you just leave the world and travel through space and go to a different planet. I guess in the end, that is a pretty similar thing. It might just be tone and style choices, right? Like extraplanar seems more fantasy and interplanetary seems more sci-fi. Okay. Steph is also mentioning Stargate. That's another good call for fantasy sci-fi stuff, or like sci-fi where the futuristic tech doesn't look like what we humans imagine our futuristic tech would be like. It's some other race's completely different styled tech. Okay. Chase 101. What about a wizard / sorcerer spell about keeping enemies away from you? I do have one like that already. It's called Warding Wave. It's a first level spell, and it's a reaction spell. When an enemy comes close to you, you send out this wave, and it blasts the enemy away and knocks them prone, assuming they fail their save, of course. And I've seen it in play quite a bit, and it can be quite effective. Sam Gafford says, beans? Beans. That could be a spell. Beans. Like a magic bean, like that grows a beanstalk. Is that what you're thinking? Magic beans. Is that more of a magic item? There is a magic bean magic item. We'll see. Strat Player 05, once again, a reaction spell to transport you to a pocket dimension when you would take damage from a single source, preventing all damage and separating you from the source. Okay, do I have something like that already? I don't think so. Is there a spell like that already, though? I want to say there's a wizard spell that's something like that. Let me consult the Book of Hands. I'll do this real quick because I really would like to actually develop some mechanics for a spell before the stream is over. Okay, wizard spells. It is... What spell am I thinking? Banish Dimension Door. Oh, I feel like there's a spell that does that already. I've gone all the way through 5th level spells. Seeming. Contingency. I mean, contingency could do something basically to that effect, or at least to the same ends. But contingency is a 6th level spell. Maybe it's in Xanathar's Guide. If it's not, then I'm just imagining things, and we could do that spell. Okay, Xanathar's Guide. I've got a list here. Warding Wind. Life Trance. Thunder Step. Okay, Far Step. No, I guess I have just imagined it. Let's see what we can do with this. Okay, so it's an escape spell is what it does, right? So it's something escape. All right, and what is that? Conjuration? Oh, I think Misty Step is Conjuration. I think teleportation stuff is Conjuration. Like going to other planes is usually Conjuration. Misty Step is Conjuration, and teleportation I think is also Conjuration. Teleportation. Conjuration. Okay, that's it. It's Conjuration. It's Conjuration. What kind of level of spell are we thinking here? Because I want this to be lower than a 6th level spell. I'd like a wizard to get access to this earlier than the 3rd tier of play. It doesn't seem like 1st tier. That's instantly going into a pocket dimension. Seems higher than 1st tier. So let's do a 2nd tier of play. So 3rd level spell, 4th level spell. Start with 4th, and maybe we'll bring it down to 3rd. 4th level, Conjuration. Wizard. Okay. Casting time. 1 reaction when you are subjected to a source of damage. When you take damage from a single source. Okay. Yeah. When you take damage. Itself is the range. Components. Do verbal somatic. I do like material components quite a bit, and the majority of my spells feature them. This one being a reaction, I don't know if a material component fits for a quick reaction spell. Duration. Not sure. Okay. You, with a thought, with a word, with a utterance, with a quick syllable, with a syllable of power, with a the blink of an eye, in an instant, in an instant, you teleport into a small pocket dimension, saving yourself from harm, freeing yourself from harm, preventing yourself from harm, um, um, sending yourself out of harm's way and preventing the damage you were to take. Sending yourself out of harm's way. That's not the right word, but that's okay. We can edit that later. In an instant, you teleport into a small pocket dimension. Well, pocket dimension already implies that it's small. In an instant, you teleport into a pocket dimension, sending yourself out of harm's way and preventing the damage you were to take. The pocket dimension has a stable, harmless environment. You remain there until the start of your next turn, at which when you remain there until the start of your next turn, in which you return back to the space you left or the nearest unoccupied space. In an instant, you teleport into a pocket dimension, sending yourself out of harm's way and preventing the damage you were to take. The pocket dimension has a stable, harmless environment. You remain there until the start of your next turn, in which you return back to the space you left or the nearest unoccupied space. So I guess duration is one round. Would we call that? It's, I don't know, maybe less than one round. Let's just call it instantaneous. I will check on that. And I will instantaneous, and I will do some editing on the wording to make it sound. I want it to sound a little bit clearer, but it's not bad. And we'll figure out the name. It's something escape. I think sounds good. Grim Asialander says, "Is there already a refresh spells in D&D? Refresh spells. Refresh. The only game I remember that has refresh in it is Crystallis from NES, and refresh was the heal spell. So you're probably not referring to that. It sounds like something that heals you or removes conditions, which, yes, there definitely are those. Steph Hanley, create a spell called Conjure Cloctopus. Conjure Cloctopus. Isn't there a summon clockwork creature from Matasha's Guide? I think so. Strat player, going back to that escape spell, it would allow you to then emerge at any location you've been before, but would require some saves to avoid getting lost in a maze of dimensional tunnels. Okay. So the spell, as I've noted here, is really a pretty simple and straightforward one. So that introduces a layer of complexity, but potentially more interesting and obviously more versatile. Okay, so I'll make a note about that. Potentially allowing you to return to any place on the origin plane that you have previously visited, potentially. So as written, I just put 4th level. That it might be 3rd level. I don't know. I'll go back and do a good edit on it. The important thing is that we've got the basic concept down now. Billy Hollywood. Oh, StreamYard has just thrown me down to the bottom of the chat. That's what I get for never keeping up with chat. Okay, Billy Hollywood. A spell for crossing small bodies of water like deep rivers and small lakes. A spell for crossing. So obviously there's water walk and water breathing and spells that give you a swim speed. That sort of stuff comes into play at like 2nd level, I want to say. Is Ultra Self, you can breathe water or swim or something. So not quite grabbing me. Stavros says, what about a spell that lets you manipulate the dreams of a person? The dream spell does that, my friend. Jake Non. Oh, he's replying to someone. Okay. Carlos, a spell that draws multiple enemies a few squares toward a single spot and binds them there like a magic group lasso. Okay. So we've already got web and entangle, and that restrain the creatures in the radius. Doesn't pull them together, though. I wonder if instead of a lasso, where it's just a restraining thing like web and entangle already do, what if it's like a really forceful pull? You create like a gravitational singularity. I'll say that in fantasy terms, and it actually like pulls the enemies so forcefully together that they smash against one another and take damage. Yeah, maybe I'll make a note about that one for a potential one. So what do we call that? Gravitational singularity. Whoever's a science expert out there, please don't roast me too bad for probably using these terms incorrectly. And I wouldn't use a term like that in a fantasy game either, but that's just to help me get the idea down. All right. So point in space has a forceful pulling effect. Creatures, objects too. Yeah, creatures and objects get drawn. It's stronger than drawn. Gets get pulled together and smash against one another for damage. Smash against one another for it's probably like bludgeoning damage, I guess. Bludgeoning damage. Okay. All right, so I'll keep that one in mind as a potential. Blue zombie blood. Bestow blessing. Basically reverse of bestow curse. Okay. Is there a spell like that already? Like there's the bless spell, obviously, but that's the opposite of bane, and that's a lower level, a level 1. Bestow curse is a 3rd level spell. So a 3rd level bestow blessing. That's potential. And I am needing some more cleric and paladin spells, actually. I don't know why I haven't just made a whole bunch of these little templates. Okay. Bestow blessing. Bestow blessing. Bestow blessing. This would be like a 3rd level level abjuration? Conjuration? What is the bless spell? Abjuration? Transmutation? Enchantment. Okay, sure. Enchantment. 3rd level enchantment. Cleric? Paladin. Okay. So essentially opposite of bestow curse. Multiple, like 2 or 3 options, probably multiple options for Blessings. Okay. I do like that one. Maybe we could come up with some ideas for what the blessing options could be. Is it a touch range? Let's bestow curse. Bestow curse is like a 30-foot range. Oh, it is touch. Okay. Bestow blessing. 1 action, range, touch, somatic, duration, concentration up to 1 minute. Okay. Anyone have any cool ideas for the options for the bless? Like what kind of effects could that give? That's something I could spend quite a bit of time thinking about. So maybe I'll just leave it like that. But I do like that idea. That's a cool one. I'm just gonna keep going here. You guys are giving me some interesting ideas for spells, so I'm just gonna keep going. Even if I have to just make these really loose notes like I'm doing, this will give me really good stuff to look at and think about as I'm developing the book. Big Mac comments, maybe a spell where you transform the ground into a type of quicksand or something along those lines. Quicksand, okay. Quicksand and bog, right? Silt bog, hole, yeah, something like that. Okay, I could see that. It's like a druid spell, maybe ranger too. Hey, Dakota, all right, you got a concept in there already. There has to already be a spell for merging with water, like becoming invisible and traveling at double speed. But if there isn't, there should be. There's one for flying where it's called form of the zephyr form, or cloud form, something cloud or zephyr form. But I don't know if there's a water one. So it's like a more powerful water water walk swimming. So let's do I have a spell in the book already called hydroform, aquaform. I'm going to look here. It is I've got a number of water spells in here actually. Water is an element. It's probably my favorite of the 4 classicals. It's an element that I really like. It's got water shell, water lash, warding wave. Do I not already have a hydro form? I don't. Okay. So I'm just going to call it hydro form as the working title. And that's a transmutation. And wizard. What other class does it seem like? Druid, sorcerer. Yeah. And then my range self is my default on my template there. It shouldn't be. Okay. For duration, the target is composed of water. This affects stats in some way, right? It's got to. Stats in some way. They can swim, breathe water, and are translucent, effectively invisible while in water. Dig it. Okay, cool. Good one, Dakota. Where did my stream go? Yay for tons of taps. Sam Gafford, what about a decent acid spell? Decent acid spell. Vitriolic Sphere is pretty decent, isn't it? Let me take a look at if I have an acid spell already designed for the book. Okay. Well, Chaos Rift can potentially deal acid. Good call. All right, let's just put down acid spell. I'll figure something out. I'll see if I can't come up with a unique way to deal acid damage and make it good, make it an effective and viable spell. Okay, Frank Reich says, with the DNA test, maybe like connecting with others' brain, like a bridge, like you can go to their memories, fears, trauma, something like that. You know, there might be something in there. Maybe like it's a divination spell and you can tap into ancestral memories. Ancestral memories. I always thought there need to be more divination spells. Divination, I guess the acid spells evocation. Divination spells. Tap into or connect with ancient ancestral memories from the target's lineage. Okay, that might work. Donnie Biggerstaff, Beast Within. Beast Within. That reminds me of the werewolf spell we were just talking about. So yeah, we'll keep that werewolf idea on there. Dwayne S. Something that reverses a debuff used against you and turns it into a positive effect. Well, that's interesting. Like in a way that could be too hard to predict if we left it totally open-ended, because there could be like any kind of effect. But if we limited it to some specific common conditions that a person could get, that a character can have, that might actually be a cool solution. So reversal of condition, weakness to strength. Weakness to strength. It's not exactly weakness though. It's a disadvantage to an advantage. Like snares to strength. I don't know. It's just a working title. Removes harmful condition or negative condition and provides a helpful or positive opposite effect. For example, strained turns into strained becomes, you'd be moving fast, right? Strained becomes haste. I mean, not exactly the haste spell, but like the haste spell. And poisoned becomes vibrance, vitality, and vitality. Stunned becomes keenness of mind and senses. What's another really common effect? Restrained, grappled, charmed, prone. Yeah, prone becomes standing, flying. I don't know, something like that. Okay, yeah, I can dig that. For the artificer class, I recently discovered that artificer is actually pronounced artificer, which is the most British thing I've ever heard in my life. It's actually the most British thing I've ever heard in my entire life. I can't believe that. Artificer class. Okay, cool. Snares to strength. Artificer. I've just done it again. By Jove, I've just done it again. Can't believe what a wanker I am. Artificer. Artificer. Real Pappy used to always say artificer. Artificer it is. Artificer. And then also it could be, what other class might that be? Maybe cleric and paladin? Bard. Yeah, it's kind of got a trickery feeling to it in a way. That works. All right. Now I'm going to start doing voices. Once you get me started on doing voices, it's hard for me to stop. And I'm the man that is going to destroy you. Looking for additional spell concepts from you guys. Dwayne S. Telescopic vision lets you spy over long distance. It's just like scrying. Still looking for more suggestions. Strat Player 05 with a comeback. There's something to the idea of an illusion spell that does psychic damage by transforming, quote unquote, the target into something it finds abhorrent. Trying to think if that exists already. I know there are illusion spells that deal psychic damage because the target believes they're being harmed. So I wonder if that would count as, that's just another mode or option that you could already use with, oh my gosh, what is that spell? It's just like a first or second level spell. The, that like major, not Crown of Madness, the Phantasmal Force. That might be under Phantasmal Force. I'll check, because if there's not, then it would be a good idea. Illusory, what have I done? Oh wait, illusory deformation, illusory abomination. Working title. All right, and it's illusion, we know, and target believes it has been transformed into something it finds abhorrent, taking psychic damage, possibly hindering its abilities, its attacks, its features, spells, etc. Hindering what it can normally do, because it's like, oh, I've been turned into an orc. I am no longer a fair elven priestess. So she can't cast her elven priestess magic. Dwayne S. with the comeback. Wild magic mutation. The Simic Guild in the Ravnica sourcebook includes something related, but it's very restrictive. I have a spell very similar to that. It's called Cloak of Chaos. Carlos, I love spells that encourage shenanigans. Yes. Bertie Sanders, any ideas for a cantrip? I do have some cantrips already. I have a Voltaic Strike for the Artificer, and some for the Warlock. Gleaming Arrow, Infernal Trident, and Shadow Gaze. And for the Bard, I have Mirth and Melancholy and Mouth of the Muse. And for the Wizard, Sorcerer, maybe Druid, there's Waterlash. Yeah, but I always welcome more cantrips. So maybe I should just put a note for a cantrip, because some more cantrips would be a good thing. Thank you for reminding me. Okay. Grim Asialander says, I was kind of thinking of Forbidden Conjure Preparation spell. You can refresh all the spells you expended for the day. You cast this and take the character's health die times spell slots to be refreshed. Kind of a blood magic thing. Like you sacrifice your hit points for regaining spell slots. I like the concept, but it's not a spell. What you're thinking up there is a concept for a class feature, or maybe even a feat, but it's not a spell. You wouldn't use a spell, aka a spell slot, to recover spell slots, but it's a good idea. Okay, scrolling through here for some more spell concepts. The player of X. I have a player that is a goblin bard that uses puppets. They have a spell that is the spectral puppets playing volleyball with debris in the area, bludgeoning all in the area. Very creative. And I like that it has a lot of specifics to it. Could there be a puppet spell of some kind? Puppet master, master of puppets. Can I make a spell called Master of Puppets? That would be awesome. Master of Puppets. I'm just putting that in there. Sounds like an enchantment spell if I've ever heard one. I don't know what it does, but if I can get a spell Master of Puppets in the book, I'm going to be very happy. Thank you for that. Okay. 5th edition is definitely overdue for some good chronomancy. Yes, it is. I don't know if that fits this book, though. It seems like chronomancy would deserve more attention and development. Freaking blood shaman magic. Carlos, Carnage. Everyone in combat within 60 feet of the caster has increased critical hit chance for triple critical hit dice. Oof. I like that. That sounds like a sorcerer spell. Let's do sorcerer, and it's transmutation or enchantment. I'm not sure. Carnage. Everyone within 60 feet of you, right, has increased crit chance and crit damage or dice for the duration. Oh yeah, that's who was talking about encouraging shenanigans. Yeah, that's like bloody shenanigans there. Okay. Dakota, maybe critical on a 19 or 20, lasts for 5 rounds, 2nd level spell. What do you think? Okay. I would make it more intense than that. I would make it edgier than that because yeah, we really want the carnage to happen. Dwayne S. once again, underwater message. Leave a message that can be heard or seen by anyone by submerging their head into the water. The spell by submerging their head into the water the spell was cast on. You could place it on a bucket, fountain, or a pond. I like it. Nice, light effect. Simple, low level thing. Maybe a cantrip. Maybe it could be part of a cantrip. Huh. Let me go back to this cantrip idea. So, prestidigitation is amazing, and it's an open-ended cantrip, so you can do a lot of things with it. I wonder if I could make another cantrip that's very open-ended like that, and somehow lets you do things that aren't covered under prestidigitation. Maybe prestidigitation, like multiple open-ended options. Just check to make sure they aren't things you can already do with prestidigitation. Do with let's keep going here. I don't know how much longer I'm going to go, but I at least want to mine a couple more good ideas. Grim Asialander is already a post-mortem trap spell where if the target contains a spell which will trigger when the target dies. I do have a spell in the book that does have an effect when you die. It's kind of a wicked, grotesque spell. Thanatopsis. Yeah, Thanatopsis is a spell that you cast on yourself, and when you die, if you die, you become an undead. It's obviously not a lich, but it is still an undead, and you get to persist on in some fashion. So that's kind of what you're asking, but it sounds like yours is more like you imbue yourself with any spell, and then if you die, like, fireball explodes off of you or something. I think that would be covered under the contingency spell. Warlock Owl, a bard spell that puts someone in a state of blind merriment, making them oblivious to the world around them. Sounds just like Hideous Laughter. Tasha's Hideous Laughter is basically that. Angered Outlier. Not sure if it exists in the books, but what about a spell where you can assign a point on a creature / objects for objects / players to orbit around and get sucked into? Okay, so that's kind of like that gravitational singularity thing I already noted down. So I think that's a cool idea for a spell. So that one has a good chance of making it in, I think. Carlos, the Gambler, a leveled version of guidance where the player gets 1d6 bonus to skill check, but failure has increased consequences. I don't know. I like it. The concept I like, but is that a spell? The Player of X. Esper, you got to check out the Pathfinder 2nd edition spell, Mad Monkeys. All right, let's check it out. Pathfinder 2, Mad Monkeys. Let's see what this does. Magical monkey spirits fill the area as they pile and climb on top of one another. Because the monkeys are magical spirits, they can't be attacked or hurt. Is this homebrew? It sounds like homebrew. Casting calm emotions or a similar effect over the monkeys makes them docile, causing them to cease making mischief for the duration of Mad Monkeys. Choose the kind of mischief you want your monkeys to make when you cast the spell. They produce the effect listed for that mischief when you cast the spell, and each round when you sustain the spell. When you sustain the spell, you can move the area of the monkeys by 5 feet. Flagrant Burglary. The monkeys try to steal any one item from one creature in the area. Use your spell DC -10 as the monkey's thievery modifier. Their attempts relies more on distraction than subtlety, so the victim knows what item the monkeys were trying to take and whether it was taken, blah, blah, blah. Raucous din. The monkeys screech loudly, potentially deafening creatures in the area. Each creature in the spell's area must attempt a fortitude save. Critical success. Creatures unaffected and temporarily immune for 10 minutes. Failure deafen. Critical failure. Creatures deafen for 1 minute. Tumultuous gymnastics. The monkeys jump and climb all over creatures in the area, interfering with complex movements. Okay. Oh, it's not homebrew. Advanced Player's Guide. Man, that's an awesome spell. I love that. Thank you for pointing that out to me. D Hammer suggesting the name of the spell, Prompt Escape. Prompt Escape. Instantaneous escape. Blinking escape. Flash escape. Maybe flash escape. Blue Zombie Blood, a bard spell that has the player make a rhyming couplet with an intent, dealing damage, healing, moving a creature in a direction, performing a simple task, etc. It's very similar to Suggestion. Additionally, from Blue Zombie Blood, it would have a few spelled out options, for example, with examples given. Anything outside those options would be determined by the DM. Again, bestow curse. Okay. Cassius Jonas. One spell that I have is a spell that lets the caster switch places with a target within eyesight. Huh. Okay, so swapping teleportation. Swapping teleportation. Switch places with target in sight. It's charisma save to negate, maybe? Save negates, something like that. And I guess conjuration is what teleporting is. Okay. Okay, I'll think about that one. That's a pretty cool idea. I don't know if I've actually seen that yet in 5th edition. Joseph Reynolds. Howdy, folks. Howdy, Joseph Reynolds. Strat player. Personally, I'd call that one knocking heads. Knocking heads might be it. David Burr. Just bumped me to the bottom again. David Burr, where's your comment? Oh my gosh, you guys have given me so many comments. This is awesome. David Burr, where did you go? Sorry, guys. Every once in a while, StreamYard just bumps me to the very bottom of the comments. And because like I talk a lot, I never keep up with the current comments. I'm always like reading stuff that you all posted 20, 30 minutes ago. David Burr, what about a spell that rapidly ages someone? One of the players in my home group asked me about a spell like that. And he was also thinking that it could, make someone de-age someone, decrease someone's age. So you could turn someone like into a little kid or a baby. So I like it. I like the concept. It's chronomancy, though, right? Isn't that what that is? I guess it's chronomancy. So would that be its own different school of magic? I don't quite know how to fit that in. It might be beyond the scope of my book, but I do like it. Skull, the cosmetic one. Pain relief allows you to take a certain amount of damage, and next turn you gain it back. Well, I mean, it's just a healing spell is all that's doing there. Grim Asialander, Recall Touch. Touch a creature that gives a sigil, which will last the whole encounter or until you trigger a reaction. The reaction will make the touch creature return to touching space. Huh. So it's like someone touches the sigil and it teleports you back to a certain place. Is that what it is? Mark and recall? Is there a recall thing like that? I don't know. Warlock Owl. A spell that creates a bubble that any non-magical projectile that enters be stopped midair, drops to the ground, or on a monster under it when the spell ends. Seems like there's something similar to that. I'll make a note. Trapping bubble. Weapon trap bubble. Weapon trap bubble. All right. I might be nearing the end of the stream here. I think I might be running out of brain power here, like a water prison. Okay, so there's a spell already in the book called Water Shell, and it has 2 modes. The first mode is you put it on someone, and it's a protective thing, like this layer of water that's protecting them in a number of different ways. And then the second mode is you can pull it off of the person and try to splash it onto an enemy, and it captures them like in a little water prison. Strat Player 05, Monochromatic Ray. Comes from a scroll and seems like Prismatic Ray, but there are only 5 possible rays: gray, light gray, darker gray, heather, and Eigengrau. I kind of like that. It could be a joke spell, but it also could possibly be a serious spell too, because ink, I'll put it on there. Monochromatic ray. All right, I'm about done for, guys. Let me see if I can just find one more really standout, cool spell idea. Bestow blessing. All affected wielded weapons become magical to an additional 1d4 radiant. Okay, I might put that idea in the bestow blessing idea. And attacks become magical and deal extra 1d4 damage, radiant, etc. Okay. And all right, I'm just looking through here now. I'm going faster, just trying to see if I can find something that really catches me. Kitten Storm. Rainbow Turret with the super chat. Thank you so much, Rainbow Turret. Kitten Storm makes a shower of kittens that does 8 damage each. Roll, see how many kittens there are. 1d20 for wizard. How many cats can you summon with conjure animals? Like 8, I think, starting at 3rd level. So you could already get 8 cats. That might already be something you can already do with the conjure animal spell. The player of X, acid blood reaction when hit, spray acid. That's cool. I have another spell. I might have 2 actually in the book already, where when you take damage, the enemy that's like doing a melee attack on you, they are damaged from hitting you. And there was also a 3rd edition spell that was acid blood, I remember. So I might kind of already have that covered. Just reading through here, a few more comments. Owen Keenan pointing out changing a debuff into a positive is already in Deep Magic for 5th edition. Sorry. It's called Surprise Gift. Petrify to Stone Skin. Frighten to a Fear Aura. Poison to Invigorated, etc. All right, so I will take a look at that because I don't want to just replicate what someone else has already done. Check out Surprise Gift in Deep Magic. Okay, good catch. Dragon Skin. Blinded to True Sight. All right. Dakota says, you should be a voice actor in your spare time, Esper. Well, in a manner of speaking, I am a voice actor in my spare time. Though it is not all spare time. It is also my working hours. My working hours. Okay, that's a big part of why the tower was so good. Well, thank you so much. Make spells that are bard specific because those are very rare. Yes, I am on that. Or in the swamp. Thanks. Okay, I think we are good. Everybody, this has been a very productive, interesting, mentally stimulating Bardstream. I've enjoyed it immensely, both my chat with Dakota and also getting all these spell concepts from you guys. What I'll do later on is I'll go back through because there's some comments that I just couldn't get to, and I'll check and see if maybe there is any more concepts in there that grab my attention. So if I didn't read yours out loud, there's still a chance that I will come across it and be inspired by it. So thank you very much, everyone, for your participation. Another great one. What else? Pre-order my book, please. I'd be overjoyed. And if not, well, it will be available for purchase sometime later this year. So you'll be able to just regular order it later on. Really looking forward to that date. It's a huge dream of mine a huge lifelong dream of mine. And as I mentioned earlier, hopefully a stepping stone to even greater publishing accomplishments. So wish me luck, everyone. Thanks a lot. Happy New Year to you all. And catch you next time. May your adventures be many.